The house was an old Victorian mansion perched on the edge of a desolate hill. Amelia moved in with her parents during the summer, hoping to escape the bustle of the city. But the house's creaking wooden floors and dimly lit corridors gave it an eerie aura that made Amelia uneasy from the start. The most unsettling part of the house was the antique mirror in the hallway outside Amelia's bedroom. It was tall and ornate, with a silver frame carved with strange symbols that seemed to twist and writhe in the flickering candlelight. No matter how often Amelia told herself it was just a mirror, she couldn't shake the feeling that something lurked within it. One night, as the clock struck midnight, Amelia was jolted awake by a faint whisper. "Amelia," the voice called, soft yet chilling. She sat up, her heart pounding, and glanced at the mirror through her open door. The hallway was empty, but the surface of the mirror seemed to shimmer as if disturbed by unseen hands. Curiosity and fear battled within her. Summoning her courage, she stepped out into the hallway. The house was silent. The only sound, her bare feet on the cold wooden floor. As she approached the mirror, the whisper came again, louder this time. "Help me." Amelia froze. Her reflection stared back at her, wide-eyed and trembling. But then, as she watched, a shadow appeared behind her reflection. Spinning around, she saw nothing but darkness. When she looked back at the mirror, the shadow was still there, and this time, it moved. A girl emerged in the reflection, her face pale and hollow, eyes wide with terror. She wore a tattered white dress, and her hair hung in matted strands over her shoulders. "Please," the girl whispered, her voice echoing faintly in the empty hallway. "Set me free." Amelia stumbled backward, nearly tripping over her own feet. "Who are you?" she managed to stammer. "I'm trapped," the girl said, "behind the mirror. You must help me. Find the key." "Key?" Amelia's voice trembled. "What key?" Before the girl could answer, the mirror's surface rippled violently, and her image was swallowed by darkness. A chilling wind swept through the hallway, extinguishing the candles. Over the next few days, Amelia tried to convince herself it was a nightmare. But the whispers continued, growing louder each night. The girl appeared again, begging for help, her desperation palpable. Amelia couldn't but It was a stormy night when Sarah checked into the old creaky hotel on the outskirts of town. The flickering neon sign above the entrance read "Vacancy," but the place felt anything but welcoming. The receptionist, an elderly man with deep-set eyes, handed her a brass key marked 13 with a shaky hand. "Room 13, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You'll want to keep the door locked." Strange things happen in that room. Sarah chuckled nervously, brushing off his warning as mere superstition. After all, she was just there for a weekend getaway to escape her hectic life. She took her suitcase and made her way down the dimly lit corridor, the floorboards creaking beneath her feet. The room 13 was small and sparsely furnished, with peeling wallpaper and a musty smell that lingered in the air. A single window overlooked the dark woods behind the hotel, and the wind howled outside like a restless spirit. As she unpacked, Sarah noticed an old photograph hanging crookedly on the wall. It depicted a family standing in front of the hotel, their faces eerily blank. That night, as Sarah settled into bed, she couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. The wind rattled the window, and she pulled the covers tighter around her. Just as she was about to drift off to sleep, a loud bang echoed through the room. Startled, she sat up and glanced around, but nothing seemed out of place. The haunting. The following day was filled with unease. Sarah found herself drawn to room 13's history. She learned from the receptionist that many guests had reported strange occurrences. Whispers in the night, shadows moving across walls, and even sightings of a woman in white wandering the halls. That night, determined to confront her fears, Sarah decided to stay awake. As midnight approached, she heard soft sobbing coming from somewhere in the room. Heart pounding, she turned on her flashlight and scanned every corner. The sobbing grew louder until it seemed to surround her. Suddenly, the temperature dropped dramatically. Her breath became visible in the air as she saw a figure materialize at the foot of her bed. A woman in a tattered white dress, her face obscured by long hair. "Help me," the figure whispered, her voice echoing with despair, the truth unveiled. Frozen in terror, Sarah managed to stammer out a question. The woman pointed towards the photograph on the wall. As Sarah looked closer, she recognized one of the faces, the woman's face, frozen in time, yet filled with sorrow. The receptionist had mentioned that a family had vanished from room 13 decades ago. They were never found. "Find my child," the woman pleaded before dissolving into mist. Driven by an inexplicable urge to help, Sarah began searching through old hotel records and discovered that room 13 had been sealed off after that tragic disappearance. Determined to uncover the truth, she returned to her room and began investigating every inch. As dawn broke through the trees outside, Sarah found a loose floorboard beneath the bed. With trembling hands, she pried it open and gasped at what lay inside. A small box containing a locket and a faded letter addressed to Mai. The letter spoke of love and loss, a mother's desperate plea for her child's safety amidst chaos. Realizing that Emma was likely still trapped within these walls, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility. The final confrontation with newfound determination, Sarah decided to perform a ritual to release Emma's spirit. That night she lit candles around room 13 and spoke words of comfort into the darkness. As she finished reciting her intentions, a gust of wind blew through the room, extinguishing the candles. The temperature dropped again as Emma appeared before her. "Thank you," Emma whispered softly as tears streamed down her ghostly face. "You've set me free." In that moment, Sarah felt an immense weight lift from her heart as Emma's spirit faded away into light. The room brightened. Warmth returned, as if life had been breathed back into it. When Sarah checked out of hotel room 13 that morning, she felt different, lighter somehow. She glanced back at the building one last time and smiled at the receptionist, who nodded knowingly. As she drove away from that haunted place filled with secrets and sorrow, Sarah understood that sometimes confronting our fears leads us not only to truth, but also to healing, both for ourselves and for those lost along the way.